We have a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. Joe Biden is ready for stimulus payments. He's ready to help out the American people. Even state governors, even local county officials are ready to give the stimulus payments out. In simple terms, know that a substantial budget surplus is the focal point of a new bill in North Carolina. It will put the money back in residents' pockets. There's a $6.5 billion at stake if the lawmakers don't do this, because Pennsylvania currently has a property tax and renters rebate program. It's in place for the low income. The standard benefit is $650. However, the elderly, the widows, and the widowers, as well as the disabled, could see up to $975 in stimulus checks. Governor Tom Wolf has already suggested a new measure for this bill, a new measure that comes as part of his Opportunity Program. It would offer a one-time payment of $2,000 just to the households that bring in $80,000 or less annually in order to help with the child care costs and basic needs like groceries. But with Joe Biden's administration making $500 million available for farmers across the country and other clean energy products at the site of the current or former coal mines, well, it's part of his efforts to combat climate change. Because according to the White House, as many as 5 projects will be funded through the 2021 infrastructure law, with at least 2 projects set aside for solar farms. The White House also said it will allow developers of clean energy projects to take advantage of billions of dollars in new bonuses being offered in addition to investment and production tax credits available through 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. The bonuses will incentivize more clean energy investment in energy communities. The actions are among the steps that the Biden administration is taking to move and convert the U.S. economy to renewable energy like wind and solar power, while turning away from the coal and other fossil fuels that produce the plant-warming energy gas emissions. Even Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, said the bonuses will add new credits of up to 10% of clean energy production in struggling energy communities. Because according to the White House, everybody, up to 5 clean energy projects will be funded at current and former mines. Folks, just in, President Biden has signed a new bill. It will bring changes across the country. The millions of people that are on stimulus checks or on Social Security and SSDI, as well as SSI, are going to benefit from this change. Now, I know many of you guys are concerned whether the passage of this bill was a good idea, but keep watching. I'll explain more in this video. The White House already announced that Joe Biden signed a GOP-led resolution, making an end and marks an end to the national emergency crisis. Now, the resolution passed the House despite over 200 House Democrats voting against it. It came after the White House said it strongly opposed the measure, though it did not threaten to veto the bill if it passed. The bill later passed the Senate in a bipartisan 68-23 vote. Plus, we know the White House has already said it was already planning to wind down the national emergency anyways, and the public health emergency around the crisis on May 11th was already to end. It gave states the go-ahead to begin winding down the measures enacted during. Despite the White House warning earlier that this year it would create a wide-ranging chaos and uncertainty through the healthcare system. Now, the resolution will end a number of waivers for federal health programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP. However, many of these changes to healthcare regulations have become largely irrelevant as the crisis precautions have been relaxed. Even the former president first declared a national emergency on March 13th. Now, a couple years later, this emergency stuff has ended, but Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is not yet. It's not being challenged by the Supreme Court, and student loan repayments are set to begin either 60 days after the court ruling or 60 days before June 30th. It's basically free money to anybody who owes debt and student loan payments. But the Biden administration's decision to end the public health emergency crisis is going to get some sweeping changes across the healthcare system that go far beyond people having to pay for the crisis-related things. Because in response to the crisis, the federal government in 2020 suspended many of its rules on how care is delivered. This transformed essentially every corner of American healthcare, from hospitals and nursing homes to public health. According to CBS News, the end of the emergency means nursing homes will have to meet higher standards for training workers. Advocates for nursing home residents are eager to see the old, tougher training requirements reinstated, and even the industry says that it could worsen staffing shortages plaguing facilities nationwide. Other changes during this time, everybody, are meant to shore up hospital capacity, critical access to hospitals and small hospitals located in rural areas. They didn't have to comply with the federal rules for Medicare as long as they had 25 inpatients. Now, since the emergency ended, these exceptions have disappeared. Hospitals are trying to persuade federal officials to maintain this work, but now Congress is changing the law. The lifting of the emergency has already begun to bring an end to several aid enhancements of safety net programs that Americans have grown accustomed to, including increased SNAP and Medicaid renewals. During the crisis, the federal government approved and increased payments known as SNAP emergency allotments to those receiving SNAP food assistance. Since last month, all SNAP households nationally returned to their regular benefit amount. Now the pressure is on state lawmakers to fill the gaps. As an expert warns of worsening food insecurity, food banks are scrambling to prepare for an influx in clients, while New Jersey's governor, and even Gavin Newsom, have advised on ongoing spending crisis. A new round of stimulus could be on the way for many Americans, everybody. Now this new bill could guarantee low-income households with monthly stimulus payments. As long as they qualify, eligible people could receive up to $1,200 in extra relief. Now this is awesome news. And according to the Washington Post, Democratic and Republican lawmakers have held early discussions about a new round of crisis relief stimulus spending. A bill for a guaranteed income program proposed by progressive Democrats in Congress is calling for ongoing $1,200 monthly stimulus checks for adults, plus $600 for each child in the household. The program, called the Support Act, which was introduced in the U.S. by Minnesota Democratic Representatives Ilhan Omar and co-sponsored by Representatives Pramila Jayapal and Cori Bush. Omar said in a news release about this bill, "For too long we have prioritized endless growth while millions of people are homeless, hungry, or without health care. The crisis has laid bare these inequalities, and we have the ability to make sure everyone has their needs met." The legislation would set up a $2.5 billion grant fund that would pay for the pilot program. It would pay $1,200 monthly for adults and $600 monthly for each child in the home. Different communities would be involved in the pilot program for the first 5 years, and then the program would become available to everybody who qualifies. According to the proposed legislation, single filing adults with AGI's income of up to $75,000 and jointly filing adults with incomes of up to $150,000, and those filing as head of household with an income of up to $112,000 would be eligible for the maximum amount monthly. Now, a family of 4 or 2 children being younger than age 18 and a yearly income under $150,000 would be eligible for $3,600 a month. Now, the U.S. job market remained tight last month as employers struggled to find people to hire. The Labor Department said that the United States businesses added 390,000 jobs in May as the unemployment rate held steady at 3.6%. Job gains for March and April were revised, down by a total of 22,000 jobs. The demand for labor has also left employers hoping that older workers who left the workforce early in the crisis will come out of retirement, especially after the recent drop in the stock market put a dent in the 401ks. The number of workers ages 55 and older grew last month by 181,000. The labor force also grew by 330,000 workers last month, not keeping up the pace with hiring. In order to attract scarce workers, employers have been offering more flexible schedules, hourly benefits, and higher wages. Average hourly wages in May were 5.2% higher than a year ago, a slight moderation from the month before. But even those bigger paychecks are not keeping pace with rising prices.